Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. So if you're new here, don't forget to go down below and subscribe. And also, if you love true crime like I do, give this video a thumbs up. Yeah, also before I jump into the video, I want you guys to recommend some podcasts in the comments below after watching this video if they are not ones that I mentioned. So without further ado, let's jump into this video. I am excited. So number 4 is the podcast called Criminal. Now I will put a picture up here somewhere on the screen of how the actual podcast looks like their picture. And basically this podcast not only talks about murder, there are podcasts true crime podcasts that talk only basically about murder and missing people. But the thing I like about this podcast is they don't only cover murder, but they also cover like bank robberies. They've also covered like harassment, where people have been harassed for years. And basically what I like about this show is that the actual victim will talk about the story in a lot of the episodes versus, you know, like some of the other podcasts that I mentioned, the victims are dead and then they're just stating like, you know, the facts and what happened. If you want something a little bit more than just the typical like, you know, kind of like sad ending, this would be a good podcast for you to check out. And another thing about this podcast is it usually is like 35 minutes long. It's not necessarily like 15 minutes long. So if you have a drive that's like 30 minutes long, you can turn this on and you'll love it. Number 3 is the podcast called True Blue True Crime. Now, if you cannot understand when people from Australia talk, like their accent, you may not like this one. But besides that, I love how they get to the point. And I don't know about you guys, but I do not like podcasts that do not get to the point. I have listened to podcasts where it's literally 50 minutes long and you have to watch another one. And it's like, by the time you watch the 4th one is when you get to the conclusion of the story or whatever happens. And it's like, not that it's annoying, but it kind of is, because like if I'm listening to, basically it's like movie length and the story's not even finished, they're just prolonging it. So anyway, True Blue True Crime is really good. They average from like 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes, their podcast. And it's, I don't remember the names, but it's basically a male and a female. I don't know if they're from Australia, but it's Australian crime, I believe. And they basically cover true crime stories and missing people. But I have listened to many their podcast episodes, and I don't believe they cover anything else. I think it's just like basically like murder and missing people. But if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but I really like listening to them, because if you love listening to true crime, you know, like it's never enough. Like you always want to find more podcasts to listen to. So number 2, and honestly, I guess I could say this is tied up with number 1, but if I had to choose, this one would be number 2. And the podcast is called Generation Y. And this podcast, I would say, is very graphic, and I love that about this podcast. It's 2 guys who talk in this podcast, and once again, all of these podcasts that I'm mentioning get to the point. I do not like when podcasts don't get to the point. Like, I'm just like, there's so much suspense already when I read like just the description of a story that I just want like you to get to the point. I don't want it to be multiple episodes. So these 2 guys, they're descriptive in their stories. They get to the point, and I really like them. They're, you know, you can understand them properly, and they just like do a very good job with, you know, basically telling the story. So definitely check them out. I listen to them on my podcast app on my iPhone, but you could listen to them on Spotify as well. And I'm sure they have other places you can listen to, but they're really good. And I have been listening to them for a while now, and honestly, I basically listen to all of their episodes, but they upload on Mondays, and I wait for their episodes every Monday. When I'm driving to work, I listen to one, and when I'm coming home from work, I probably will finish it. And it's just amazing because you can click play and just listen to a story on the way to work, and it's amazing if you love true crime. This podcast is my number 1 favorite, and I don't know why, I just like really like everything that this podcast has to offer, and it is Crime Junkie. Now, I really do wish they could upload a podcast, you know, every day, but you know, that's obviously too much to ask for. But this podcast I love the girls who speak in this podcast. It's Ashley and Britt. Those two girls are really good at, basically telling a story. When you listen to a true crime podcast, you really want to make sure, the people who are talking, first of all, are very clear and don't mix up their story and tell the story really well, because you're listening to something and you don't want to be bored. So they're really good with that. And honestly, I love when podcasts are graphic. I don't like just hearing someone say, oh, so this burglar came in and stabbed this woman to death. I like to hear the graphics of the story and where she was stabbed and just a lot of the details. And I feel like they cover that all the time. And they're also they're just amazing girls, and I really like them, so go check them out. I listen to them on Spotify, and their podcast episodes also vary. I've listened to some that were 35 minutes to 40 minutes long, and I've listened to some that were an hour long, so they kind of vary depending on the story that they're telling, but I really like them, and I actually need to go give them a review. I always keep forgetting, but they're so good, guys. They're the number one podcast to me, at least, and I know that a lot of other people listen to them, and I recommend them to everyone who likes true crime. So yeah, I don't know if I'm a weirdo or anything, but I love true crime, and I would love for you guys to comment down below if you have any suggestions, and so other people who click on the video can look in the comments and see for themselves too. But right now, I'm pretty content with the 4 podcasts that I listen to, because I just kind of alternate. But I'm definitely going to search for more in the future, because as Ashley and Britt say, just one podcast won't satisfy you. You need to know a few good people that do podcasts that do the stories well, and that's why I'm making this video, because I am really obsessed with true crime, and Anthony knows that. He can attest to that. He thinks I'm almost too obsessed with true crime, and it's kind of weird, but I love it. I love hearing stories of people's cases, and it's honestly, yes, it is sad, and sometimes it's I need a break from listening to such horrific stories, but at the same time, it's life, and I feel especially another reason why I like Ashley and Britt is that they bring awareness to be weird, stay safe, something like that. I don't remember exactly, but basically be weird and stay alive, something like that. And it's true, when you don't listen to these stories, you kind of think the world is a happy place, which it is, but there's a lot of evil in this world, and there's a lot of victims, and it's just nice to hear their story, and I really like that. I don't know why I do, I just like it, and I know a lot of people do, so I'm not the only one. But anyway, guys, that is my top 4 podcasts that I love to listen to, and I will see you guys in my next video. Don't forget to go down below and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.